Although I will tell you one thing that I've been doing for the last year that I think is very relevant to why we're here today. Over a year ago, I was appointed by our Speaker of the Assembly as the chair of the Aging and Long-Term Care Committee for the California State Assembly. Which means that I've been eating, breathing, sleeping senior issues, particularly as it applies to housing, for the last year. And I've learned a whole heck of a lot as to the crisis that we are in when it comes to senior housing. And that means that me, my staff, the Speaker's staff, advocates, have been coming up with really big ideas of what we can do to move the needle to get our seniors that are living in poverty or at risk of homelessness into stable housing. And so I mention that because that's a really important issue, and it's not one to be taken lightly or to be used as for political manipulation. When people talk about senior housing, it's a real issue. It's a real issue that matters and should matter to all of us. And yet what we see here in this campaign is they're using the sentimental pull of us caring about our seniors, of us understanding the housing crisis we're in, and using that to manipulate and pass a measure which I believe will not only be devastating for Evergreen, but I think to the future of San Jose if it were to pass. And so I stand here today with our council member, with our mayor, because we cannot allow billionaires to come into our town and tell us what is good for us or good for our seniors. Right. And we know that this is not about seniors. This is about building gated community with multi-million-dollar homes, like we don't have enough of that already. But more significantly, it's not about creating good quality housing for seniors, which is something that I am absolutely committed to in my work in the legislature on your behalf. And so I want to thank all of you for being here, because you can have me, the mayor, so you can have us, yelling and screaming at the top of our lungs. But the reality is, this movement to beat this initiative requires all of us, not a few of us. Right. And so that's why I'm so grateful you're here. I need you, want you, we need you, want you to be engaged every single day until election day, because that's the only way we're going to win for our neighborhoods, for our city. Yep. All right, thank you all. I would like to introduce Robert Reese. Right here. So Robert has been one of the leaders of the campaign, has been instrumental, particularly on the fundraising piece, which is obviously something that's critical for us to get the message out, and someone we're so happy to have leading this movement. So Robert, thank you.
I'm chair of the Land Use Committee for the District 8 Community Roundtable, and I want to thank everybody coming out in support of San Jose, coming out in support of Evergreen, and coming out in support of the metropolitan area. Don't we have a diverse group of people here today? Yes. This is really San Jose. Evergreen has had the opportunity over the past year and a half or so to get to know our council member, Sylvia. I don't know if there's any place that we go where we don't see her. Are you working 8 days a week? Yeah.
He's trying to get away.
She is always willing to meet with residents. She's always willing to meet with the Land Use Committee when we have something important to say. She's willing to meet with us even when we don't have something important to say. Sylvia, do you know that you are gaining a statewide reputation? You are. I want to let you know that this is true. Your op-ed piece in Saturday Mercury News was reprinted in California Dolphin News. Sylvia, thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sylvia, and I'm the council member for this district, and I want to welcome everyone and thank everyone for being here. You couldn't have chosen a better day to have this fundraiser. Has everyone heard the great news from earlier today? If you haven't, the city council, led by our mayor here, we approved a city amendment to our charter. And that's going to go on the ballot. And so this is going to really protect our open spaces, our environment, our general plan, and all the hard work that everybody has put in, entire council members, who are all around here, your work with your community. Those are 51 meetings over the course of 4 years. All of that hard work and focus to have dense housing in growth areas, that's all going to be protected. And so that's one of the things that I think we should just really toast tonight. When you finished that vote earlier today, Mayor, I clapped. I did get a strange look, but I clapped. It's really relieving. You know, our department staff and lawyers and outside counsel work really hard, and they work really hard because we have wonderful leadership, right? And I've been honored to serve with you. But before I move into that part of this experience, I wanted to acknowledge some of the folks that have been here that are not elected officials, but are putting in equal, if not greater, dedication and work to this initiative because they truly believe and they want to protect our open hillsides. And so I wanted to start off with, of course, Robert Reed, right back at the baby. I met his dad today, and I can see why. Where comes the civil engineering mind from?
Since 1951.
Yes, that's institutional knowledge right there. So thank you so much for all that you have done. You've brought our land use committee together, and Wes and Sandy. And who am I missing there? Carol. And Carol also. And Carol, you've done such a wonderful job in protecting on next door and clarifying questions, just putting a lot of time and effort and just very knowledgeable about what we're trying to do here. And so I couldn't, I would be remiss if I didn't mention our Megan Madero. You're really leading the pack, like we're paying you, Megan. And so thank you. You know what? I think the things that you do for free on a volunteer basis is because you're born of you and you're very passionate about what you believe in. And I'm so grateful and lucky to have you as part of our team. Thank you for everybody who's worked on, who's part of this committee, like Alice Kaufman, to just raise your hand so we could acknowledge you. I'm going to read some of this, but you know what happens when you start reading off from a list and you don't have a clue and somehow you miss somebody. So I don't want to be that person, so please, Jeremy Baruz, Alice Kaufman, thank you so much, David Pochelle, Bonnie Mace, Shani and Mackenzie. So there's so many of you, but if you can raise your hand and just so we can acknowledge you. And I also want to thank our elected officials, Assemblymember Kalra for his passionate words. I think I met for the very first time former council member Martin Matthews. Now we've claimed you, former council member Nancy Kyle. Of course, our former council member Rosa Rera. Roma Dawson from San Jose Arts Commissioner is here. And I haven't met her, but if she's here, she's gone. Okay, well, if I missed you, I apologize.
Margie Matthews.
We did. Okay, we said, I'm a hugger, Margie. I hope I didn't offend you. Sorry, we met for the very first time.
We got Larry Ames over here.
Shani, I don't know why I was looking at you.
Councilmember Larry Ames.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Larry Ames. No, the man behind the camera. Of course. And so I'll go on with my message about this experience. I can say it a lot. There's been a lot of work that has gone behind this initiative to oppose it. And so, of course, I brought my lucky charm, who's my little girl, Anna. And the reason I brought her was because this would be her 4th campaign. And we haven't lost yet.
Yeah.
So hopefully that it'll apply to this campaign as well. So I'm going to go back to our mayor because it's been an honor to serve with you. You know, as an incoming council member, I don't think I couldn't have. We've had so many issues last year that we tackled together, and you really led the way to have our city become a strong city once again, restoring lots of resources and services, including our police department, and you led that in that effort, as well as getting us safe once again, right? And so we can feel that. His wife at the city State of the City address said, you know, with my husband and Sam, this is her talking about me. With Sam, you can see what you get, right? And I appreciate that you're so transparent, and every time that I've gone to you and asked you for help, you've come through, and I really appreciate it, and I feel that with your leadership, we will also be triumphant with this initiative. So thank you so much for your leadership.
Thank you all. You know, this is one of those moments where I just feel so blessed to be serving in this city. We have such an incredible community that just comes together when we see threats to what we both cherish and cherish so dearly. You know, today is the International Day of the Woman. Think about the great tradition we've had of women in leadership in this city. We've got some stellar examples, former Vice Mayor Rosa Rivera, former Council Member Matthews, and Council Member Nancy Kyle. It was, of course, the first female mayor of any major U.S. city, Janet Gray Hayes, who established a green line in this city because she knew, she had the vision to understand what it meant to preserve for future generations from those forces that might attempt to extract them and to utilize for financial gain. And Janet Gray Hayes certainly had that vision. And I know just a couple of weeks ago we lost someone I know who was dear to Rosa Rivera's Belmont Million, who similarly had a vision about creating open space and parks in East San Jose that would live on, be a legacy for generations, and what great leadership that showed. And of course, even today now, we have our own reminders, Megan Medeiros leading the charge for us, and Councilmember Sylvia Arenas, who withstood the assault of several attorneys over the last to strongly make the motion and move forward today with what will be our proposed charter amendment. And this will give us a path, I believe, for us to be able to win in the end. We know that they're going to spend millions and millions of dollars to tell people all about senior housing and the sham that they call affordable. We, of course, need to have our own path. And regardless of whether they win or not on that measure, we have a measure that we believe, based on what all of our lawyers tell us, if we can just get a majority support for this general plan amendment, a charter amendment, I should say, a charter amendment that preserves our general plan against these kinds of changes, we're going to win in the end. And I am so thrilled that the community has come together as it has. You know, I should say one thing. Developers tend to get a bad name sometimes, right? Yeah. And I remember talking to Lou Wolf a couple of years ago, and he said that his daughter used to have to tell him to drop her off a couple blocks away. So the other kids. But I want to know that there's a member of our development community who's here, and that's Eric Shea now. Yeah. Eric, we're not going to tell anything yet. So we're grateful for your support. So support is why we're all here. And since I was asked to close, they always ask the Sicilian to hit people up for money. That's what I'm here to do. Many of you have been very generous in the past, environmental causes, to civic causes in our city. And I'm personally very grateful for that and for the great legacy that many of you have left. We're coming to you again because we think this is one that's going to be critically future for future generations. But this is a legacy I think that we're all going to be very proud of if we're able to succeed and be able to tell future generations that we preserve enormous parts of Kalra, Coyote Valley, Allendon Reserve, and Evergreen against this kind of exploitative development. So I look forward to seeing you all at the victory party. But we got to find a way to pay for that party first. And so for that reason, I encourage you please to give generously. I'm confident we've got a great team of volunteers who's going to make sure every dollar is well spent.